The dawn of June 6, 1944 arrives not with warmth, but with a cold, suffocating gray that masks the horizon of the English Channel. Beneath a heavy sky, the massive Allied fleet churns the dark waters, each vessel a steel silhouette against the impending storm of history. The ocean is a chaotic landscape of white-capped waves, crashing relentlessly against the metal plates of the landing craft carrying boys toward destiny. Salt spray stings like needles, coating the rusted rivets and the cold steel walls in a layer of freezing, rhythmic brine. Every metallic groan of the boat echoes the tension felt by the men inside, huddled together in a space that feels increasingly small. Inside the craft, the air is thick with the smell of diesel fuel, wet wool, and the unspoken fear of what lies beyond. Among them is a young soldier, barely 20 years old, whose wide eyes reflect the dim, flickering light of the early morning. He grips his rifle as if it is the only thing keeping him anchored to the world. His knuckles white against the dark wood. In his pocket, a crumpled letter from home feels like 1,000 pounds. A fragile link to a life that feels like a dream. He looks at the blurred ink, a message of love from a world away, now damp with the spray of the English Channel. To his left, a seasoned sergeant stares at the deck, his jaw set in a grim line that has seen too much war. No one speaks. The only sound is the rhythmic thrum of the engine and the violent splashing of the water. Against the hull, at the front of the craft stands the Allied commander, a man whose face is a roadmap of discipline and heavy responsibility. He clicks on a flashlight, its pale yellow beam cutting through the gloom to illuminate a tactical map of the Normandy coast. He traces the lines of the objective, knowing that every inch of that sand will be bought with the blood of the men behind him. His brow furrows, the weight of command settling on his shoulders like the damp, heavy gear he wears. Behind him, the soldiers are a tapestry of human emotion. Some pray with eyes closed, while others stare blankly into the distance. The cold water at their feet is a constant reminder of the environment they are entering, inhospitable, indifferent, and dangerous. The engine's roar is deafening now, a mechanical heartbeat that pulses through the floorboards and into the very marrow of their bones. A sudden lurch of the boat sends more spray over the ramp, drenching the men further, yet not a single soul flinches. They are beyond physical discomfort now, lost in a psychological landscape where time is slowed to a crawl. The young soldier looks up at the sky, seeking a sign of hope, but finds only a vast expanse of oppressive, indifferent gray. In his eyes, we see the reflection of the dim morning light and the terrifying clarity of a boy becoming a man. In an instant, this is the silence before the storm, the heartbeat before the roar of artillery and the screams of the landing. Every man here knows that the world will never be the same after today. They are the heralds of a new era. The Allied commander looks back at his men, a silent nod of acknowledgement passing between the leader and the lead. He folds the map. The time for planning has passed. Now, only action remains. The objective is close. A distant boom of naval gunfire echoes across the water, the opening notes of a symphony of destruction. The young soldier swallows hard, his throat dry despite the dampness all around him. He prepares to stand. They are no longer just soldiers. They are the physical manifestation of a continent's hope for liberation. The landing craft continues its trek through the rough sea, a tiny silhouette in a vast, uncaring ocean, toward the cliffs, toward the sand, and toward a day that will live in the memory of mankind forever. The tension is at its peak. Every muscle is coiled. Every breath is shallow. The ramp is the only door to the future. They move into the unknown, leaving the safety of the craft for the chaos of the shore. As the engine noise peaks, the world narrows down to a single moment of courage. The dawn has come. The longest day has begun, and history is waiting on the sand.
June 1944. The English Channel is no longer a barrier, but a bridge. Across the cold, grey expanse, an armada of unprecedented scale begins its journey. Beneath a heavy ceiling of slate-grey clouds, the fleet cuts through the churning water. Each vessel is a vital gear in the Great Crusade. Destroyers lead the way, their steel hulls battered by the unrelenting rhythm of the sea. The salt spray freezes against the metal, and the men. Signal flags whip violently in the freezing wind, conveying silent orders across the vast formation. Communication is sparse. The mission is clear. On the decks of the transports, the air is thick with the smell of diesel and salt. Thousands of men stand in silent anticipation. Their faces are etched with exhaustion and the weight of what lies ahead. Their eyes are fixed toward the east, toward the unseen shores. Among them is a young soldier, his hands white-knuckled as he grips the wet railing. The vibration of the engines hums through his very bones. Fear is a constant companion, yet it is mastered by a quiet resolve. The crossing is long, and the sea is unforgiving. Below decks, the atmosphere is different. In the cramped, dim quarters, the roar of the ocean is replaced by the thrum of the machinery. Rifles are checked one last time. Packs are adjusted. The silence here is heavy, broken only by the occasional clank of metal. High above on the bridge of the flagship, the commanders watch and wait. Every mile gained brings them closer to the decisive moment. The radar spins, a modern eye scanning the fog for any sign of the enemy. The technology of war works in tandem with human courage. On a metal table, the fate of Europe is laid out in ink and paper. Routes are marked, timings calculated to the second. Operation Neptune is in motion. There is no turning back now. The gears of history have been set in an irreversible turn. As dawn begins to break, the larger ships begin the process of deployment. Landing craft are lowered into the churning swell. Engines roar to life, coughing blue smoke into the salty air. The small boats look fragile against the towering hulls of the warships. The sea violently rocks the smaller boats, testing the stomachs and the resolve of every man on board. They are now at the mercy of the waves. The horizon begins to glow with a pale, cold light. The smoke of the naval bombardment starts to smudge the sky in the distance. Ahead lies the Atlantic Wall. Through the mist and the spray, the coast of France finally emerges, a dark, jagged line on the horizon. The crossing of the Channel is almost complete. The fleet moves forward, carrying the hopes of a world into the fires of history. June 6, 1944. Before the sun would rise over the beaches of Normandy, the sky was already heavy with the weight of history. Operation Overlord had begun. Thousands of young men soared through the darkness, heading toward the heart of occupied Europe. Inside the belly of these metal beasts, the atmosphere was thick with the scent of oil, exhaust, and the silent prayers of the brave. Among them was a young paratrooper, his eyes fixed on the vibrating floor, his mind miles away even as the engines roared. Every rattle of the fuselage served as a reminder of the distance between safety and the unknown dangers awaiting them below. Check your gear, one last time. A loose strap could be the difference between a safe landing and a tragic end. The jumpmaster watched his men with a steady gaze. He knew the cost of the mission and the burden of the command. Then, the command came. Stand up, hook up. The silence of the cabin was shattered by the urgency of the moment. The door swung open. A rush of freezing air flooded the cabin, bringing with it the distant sound of anti-aircraft fire. One by one, they stepped into the void, falling into a night that would change the course of the world forever. In the sky over Normandy, the silence was replaced by the snap of silk and the terrifying beauty of white canopies blooming. They descended through the mist, alone but united in purpose, drifting toward the hedgerows and the shadows of the unknown. The airborne assault had begun. The dawn was coming, and with it, the fight for the freedom of a continent.
June 6, 1944. A day that would change the course of history forever. The morning mist over Omaha Beach hides the storm to come. Inside the landing crafts, the air is thick with anticipation. Allied soldiers are packed tightly together, shivering in the cold sea spray. The steel ramp rattles violently under the impact of the waves. Every man carries the weight of a nation on his shoulders. The heavy metal door slams down into the frigid seawater, marking the sudden transition into total chaos. The transition from the boat to the beach is instantaneous and overwhelming. Soldiers leap into the churning water. The surface of the sea is disturbed by the impact of incoming fire, creating tiny geysers across the waves. Struggling through chest-deep water, soldiers are heavily weighed down by combat gear, holding rifles high to keep them dry. The shoreline is a labyrinth of jagged steel obstacles and tangled barbed wire, all shrouded in thick black smoke. Handheld cameras capture the desperation as men crawl behind beach obstacles, seeking any sliver of cover. Medics move with panicked speed, their faces covered in salt water and soot as they tend to those in need. Looking toward the cliffs, German defensive bunkers spit tracer fire, creating lethal streaks across the morning sky. The slope they must conquer seems near impossible, yet the drive to push forward remains unbroken. Small groups of troops huddle behind the shingle, catching their breath and exchanging urgent glances as they prepare to move. Terror begins to turn into forward momentum. Through the smoke, the first coordinated push inland begins. They move through the lingering haze, focused on the mission despite the devastation surrounding them. Every inch of ground is a testament to their courage. The shingle is wet with the tide and the cost of war. From the shoreline to the bluffs, the momentum shifts. The liberation of Europe is starting here, on these very sands. This is the story of ordinary men in extraordinary circumstances, whose bravery remains a beacon of freedom across the ages. As the smoke begins to clear, the path forward is revealed. A new chapter in history is written in the sand and sea. We remember their sacrifice. Their legacy lives on in the peace and liberty we hold dear today.
June 6, 1944. While history often focuses on the tragedy of Omaha, the liberation of Europe relied on a massive 50-mile front across Normandy. At first light, the silence of the Atlantic was shattered by the thunder of naval guns, signaling the start of Operation Overlord's beach landings. From Utah in the west to Sword in the east, a multinational force of Americans, British and Canadians prepared to storm the Atlantic Wall. Landing craft moved in synchronized waves, cutting through the choppy surf toward beaches where the fate of the free world would be decided. At Utah Beach, the westernmost objective, the American 4th Infantry Division faced a coastline shrouded in early morning mist and coastal fog. Despite landing south of their intended target, the troops found the defenses here less formidable than expected, allowing for a swift push inland. Combat engineers worked frantically under intermittent fire, clearing paths through the dunes and wire for the following waves of men and machines. Within hours, vehicles and specialized tanks began rolling onto the sand, transforming the beach into a bustling logistical hub for the invasion. To the east, the British 50th Division approached Gold Beach. Their mission to capture Bayou and link up with the Americans at Omaha. The British troops fought through heavy surf and high winds, facing stubborn resistance from German strongpoints overlooking the shore. Specialized Hobart's funnies, armored vehicles designed for beach clearing, proved vital in neutralizing mines and bridging anti-tank ditches. Further east lay Juno Beach, where the 3rd Canadian Infantry Division faced some of the heaviest defenses outside of the Omaha sector. The Canadians surged forward with incredible determination, taking heavy losses, but successfully breaching the sea walls within the first hour. By midday, Canadian armor had pushed further inland than any other Allied unit, threatening the vital German communications hubs behind the coast. The final sector was Sword Beach. Here, the British 3rd Division and French commandos aimed for the strategic city of Caen. Commanders on the ground directed the chaotic flow of men and equipment, ensuring the beachhead didn't become a bottleneck for the invasion. Despite a counterattack by German panzers, the British held their ground, securing the eastern flank of the entire Allied invasion force. As the sun rose higher, the 5 separate beachheads began to merge into a single continuous front across the Norman countryside. This was more than a military operation. It was a feat of international cooperation, bringing together nations with a singular shared purpose. The success at Utah, Gold, Juno and Sword provided the necessary momentum to ensure that the foothold in Europe would never be lost. June 6th, human courage that made the impossible possible. The Atlantic Wall had been breached, but the path to liberation was just beginning. Beyond the sand lay the treacherous, muddy hedgerows of France. Every step forward was a struggle against exhaustion. Soldiers moved past the hollow shells of bunkers that once held the line of tyranny. In the small villages of Normandy, the silence of occupation was broken by the heavy boots of liberators and the cautious gaze of the free. Every street and every stone wall bore the scars of a conflict that was far from over. The price of peace was written in the ruins. Behind the front lines, the machinery of war hummed. Strategy met reality in the dim light of command tents where the next move was decided. Lines on a map represented lives on the ground. Commanders charted the agonizing expansion of the Allied foothold, pushing deeper into the heart of Europe. What began as a desperate gamble on a strip of sand had become an unstoppable tide of steel and determination moving across the countryside. As the smoke cleared, the morning sun revealed a new horizon. They were no longer just survivors of the beach. They were the liberators of a continent. Victory is never without its toll. The quiet beaches now stand as silent witnesses to the immense sacrifice required to turn the tide of history. The liberation of Western Europe had begun, a journey born in the surf of Normandy, destined to rewrite the story of the world forever.